Good evening, everyone. And right on cue, there comes Candy. If you are brand new to my channel, I start out pretty much every video with giving my dog, Candy the Wonder Dog, this is her, a treat. And as soon as she hears that word, she starts pawing at me because that's part of the machinations, part of the hoops I make her jump through. She's got to do three things: lay down or shake, lay down, speak, and then I give him, and then I give her a treat. So here we go. Shake, lay down. All right, good enough. Not going to make her bark really loud. And there she goes. She gets a treat, and I get some peace. Now she has been looked after. Let me get my uh, laptop properly oriented. I'm a little off center, I think. Uh, I like to show my picture in the background there. That's the skyline of Toronto all the way back in 1977, maybe 1978. A painting, not a picture. Uh, that's that building that you see in the picture back over my shoulder. That's uh, King Street is the name of the street that building is on. That building no longer exists. And that painting is called Old Bill's Place, and it's by an artist by the name of Les Tate, Tait. I see. How good. We got Danny here filling up the live chat. Great talk with your friend, but I have video to back up my assertions. Very good. I'm going to reorient. Danny's seen the picture before. Many others have as well. Uh, if you're on the live stream, uh, say hi. I want to talk tonight about all things Donald Trump. I just did a video today with a friend of mine, a very interesting guy, Jacques Lapierre, although he's not French. He can débrouiller un petit peu. He knows a little French, but he's far from bilingual. He's from the Ottawa Valley, Petawawa to be precise. And Danny's saying, hi, H-I-G-H. I'm not sure what the joke is, Danny, that you're laughing at, but whatever the case. I'm trying to improve the functionality on my live streams, and I'm now using, I guess this equates to software. It's right up there, live with StreamYard. Uh, they're not sponsoring me. I get no money from them or anything, but I'm finding that I like the functionality. Now what I can do is something that I've wanted to do for a while. There, I can populate Danny's comment or anyone else's to the screen. And there, good evening, Gord. Great talk with your friend, but I have video to back up my assertions. So did you have any thoughts with respect? Uh, oh, say hi, H-I-G-H. Very good. And it looks like my battery is running low. I'm down to just a few percent. So I'm going to have to take a brief break and go get the power cord for this, which is in another room, because I'm down to like 5-6%. So Candy might entertain you, probably not. She'll probably follow me into the room thinking she might get another you know what. So give me 2 minutes. That probably wasn't even 2 minutes. Oh, stuff is always falling in this house. There we go. There we go. And Danny said, do what you got to do. And in the meantime, and I'm going to show that Jesus is forever. Jesus was there at the beginning. He is the way, the truth, and the life. As always, I do have one of my Bibles here. my old Oxford Annotated Study Bible. So, my friend Jack introduced a thought, an opinion he expressed that I hadn't considered before. He used the analogy, having grown up on a farm, that one farmer's property will affect the farms adjacent. And that if you look after your land, if you look after the soil and things of that nature, that it will improve conditions in neighboring farms. And he is of the opinion that Trump, in calling for tariffs and calling for cleaning up the border and doing, he's trying to impact the Canadian political landscape to make things better here for Canadians so that they will in turn be better for Americans, because we're like two farms side by side. And if our farm is in a bad state of repair, bad condition, then it's going to impact the quality of the farm that is the United States of America. And Danny's saying with regard to that farm analogy that he thinks that Jack was right on. I had not considered it in that fashion. I've been more focusing and thinking along the lines that Trump is envisioning something of a conflict coming up with China. The US is already in competition with China for economic superiority. C.O. Jamalik has shown up. Good to see you, C.O. Jamalik. Do I pronounce your name well? You've never told me, and I guess I could say Jamalik. I don't know. There's C.O. Jamalik showing her emojis. And Danny is saying that Trump is playing 4D chess. And it looks like J. Malik. Is that right? J. Malik, as opposed to CO, how I've been pronouncing it. I'll say Jamalik. At any rate, man, things are certainly interesting the way that they're playing out here in Canada. They're interesting. The big focus in our upcoming federal election, in Canada will be having a federal election. We don't know when. What is going to happen is on March 9th, we will be liberals. I shouldn't say we. The card-carrying Liberal Party members will be electing a new leader, and whoever they elect, and I'm predicting it's going to be Mark Carney. It's a slam dunk. It's a coronation. He's going to win. That on March 9th, that process will play out, and that we will then have both a new leader for the Liberal Party and a new prime minister. And it's going to be Mark Carney. And then anytime after that, between then and October, we can have a federal election. And the NDP, which is Canada's leftist-leaning socialist party, the New Democratic Party, there's really nothing equivalent to the NDP in the United States. The NDP is a socialist party. And Danny is writing that he wasn't aware that Carney was a WEF puppet, having learned that just from Jack, scary, you know what, and it is scary. And before that, I had I've been saying C.O. Jamalik so long. Jamalik is saying that Trump is overbetting his hand. And that may be true. We will find out if Trump is overplaying his hand. Just to put a fine point on things for anyone watching this, Jamalik is down in the great state of Florida. My friend Danny is from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And so we're getting a variety of perspectives here. I myself live in Eastern Ontario, Southeastern Brighton, in Northumberland County, kind of halfway between Kingston and Oshawa, to give that some scope. If anyone else is watching and wants to join in on the live stream, please, I invite you to fill up the chat. And likewise, if you want, you can join me on screen if you're so inclined. I'm going to give the link here for anyone who wants to. If you want to join the live stream, just click on that link, streamyard.com, and then there's a bunch of letters after that. Click on that, and you'll show up in the lobby, so to speak, and then I'll invite you, and you can come on screen with me, and we can talk instead of just typing. Danny, you're welcome to. Coach Malik, you're welcome to as well. And I promise to be respectful, and all I ask is likewise in return, and not to say anything that will get me any strikes on YouTube, not to engage in whatever. I think everyone knows the basic general rules around what will get you in trouble with the overlords at YouTube. Danny is showing up. Danny, is it possible for you to turn on your camera and your mic? And I will add you to the stage. And Coach Malik is likewise maybe going to join in. This will be interesting. I love putting names to faces, faces to names. And
I'm backstage. There we go.
And now, Danny, salut mon ami, comment ça va?
Can you hear me, buddy?
Très bien. Fort et
Awesome.
clair, loud and clear. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
So what do you watched that video with Jack? You liked what he had to say with respect to the farm analogy that Trump is just trying to get Canada, which in his view is in a mess, clean up our house so that it'll improve things for the Americans. You think that's his modus operandi?
That's my thought on a bunch of stuff that he's doing.
Okay, go.
I mean, Gaza included.
Okay, have at it. Tell me what you think.
Well, they're all fighting over the area. So if he goes in and actually tries to clean it up and maybe figure a way that they can get back in there and live peacefully, or give it back to one of the sides, like figure out who does it belong to?
That's an open question. To the people of Gaza, as far as they're concerned, it is theirs. As far as Israel is concerned, many Israelis view it as conquered territory. That it is theirs. It was British territory up until that 1947, Israel got a hold of it. Who actually owns it? Who I live in Canada. I have, I own a house in Canada. Is this my land? Or, if all of a sudden a foreign power came in and took over Canada, go ahead. I know you have
It's not our land to begin with. Canada's not ours to begin with, but also Canada's not ours to begin with. It belongs to the natives.
Well, can you lose? Historically speaking, can you lose control over a piece of land based on conquest, military conquest?
Well, yeah. If Terry gets taken over, whoever took it over takes it. I mean, you're gonna have a fight to get it back.
Before colonialists, before European colonials arrived in Canada and the United States, the land was being fought over by Native North American nations. You might have the Ojibwe fighting against the Mohawk, fighting against the Cree, and they'd war and fight. And then and they might enslave. This is all, pre-colonial American history, is that there was war going on before, and certainly in the Middle East. So who owns the land is a difficult question, you know, to, I
If
mean,
we
who owns it
if we want to bring
politically?
it,
At one time, it was owned by the Ottomans.
well, if you want to bring it to Canada, we blast on the natives all the time, but it's the native folks of Ganawagi and others that actually stopped us from being American and stopped 10,000 troops from invading us.
Yeah, or rather, the Canada's First Nations tribes did align with the British Crown during the American Revolutionary War. I live not far from a reserve called Tyendinaga, and it's First Nations Mohawk. However, it's not their ancestral homeland. The Mohawk Nation had been residing in upstate New York. And then after the British lost the War of Independence to, the British lost to the American revolutionaries. So the Crown then said, look, we have land up in Upper Canada. We have some land up in Upper Canada. We'll give you some territory up there, and that can be your native reserve, your native territory, and they got Tyendinaga. But they're not native to that region, not ancestrally. It was given to them back, probably 1783, 1784, after the American Revolutionary War had ended. So how can the people of Gaza, what's their claim to the land? They're settlers as well, either Arabs who moved into the land or their ancestors moved into that land. They're not
Well, I
native
guess,
to it in that sense. Go ahead.
well, in that case, why not just give it back to the original owners? Period.
Well, the
Before the Six
original
Day
owners,
War.
well, you see, that's where it gets incredibly complicated because before the 6 Day War, it was Egyptian. Before the Egyptian period, it was British ruled. And before British rule, it was Ottoman rule. And before
Wasn't
Ottoman rule,
Jordanian
then
at
we
some
can go
point?
through the.
Wasn't it Jordanian at some point as well?
Not Jordan never had Gaza. They never had Gaza. And I do this too. Sometimes you can confuse the Gaza Strip down on the Mediterranean coast with western bank of the Jordan River. The western
Oh,
bank
yeah,
of the
it's the
Jordan
West
River,
Bank.
sometimes called the West Bank.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I've done that too. I've meant to say West Bank, but I've said Gaza, or I meant to say Gaza and I've said West Bank. So uh, it's easy to get the two confused. Jordan, after the 6 Day War, after the 1948-1949 war, after that war, the first war, Jordan, which is already a Palestinian state, Jordan captured the western bank of the Jordan River and they incorporated it into their country. And that is why,
Right.
I think it was up until 1988, everyone living in the West Bank, on the West Bank of the Jordan, they were Jordanian citizens carrying Jordanian passports. And then in 1988, sometime in July of that year, they ceded their claims. They said, we no longer are laying claim to this piece of land. And the people living in the Western Bank, they said, I went to bed Jordanian and I woke up in the morning Palestinian.
Yeah.
But basically the people are actually Arab. They're Arabs from the Arabian Peninsula. Though Arabs come from the Arabian Peninsula, and they were huge colonizers. They colonized all the way into Spain and Portugal. They colonized all the way out to Afghanistan. They colonized much of what we call the Middle East, North Africa, Europe. They colonized everywhere. So if
So what are we supposed to
colonization
be?
is bad,
What are we supposed to
say
do
that
about the
again.
powder keg in that area?
This is, that's the unfortunate thing. I view it as the immovable object and the irresistible force. You have the Israelis who are never going to give up what they view it as their land. Those who call themselves Palestinians, they call it their land. The Israelis are not going to give it up, and the Palestinians aren't going to give up their claim. And it's, it's almost a fight that almost has to take place
Yeah.
because, I mean, that's my take on the whole situation in Gaza and the Western Bank of the Jordan River. I call it the Western Bank of the Jordan River on purpose because Israelis refer to it as the territory of Judea Samaria, and the Palestinians refer to it as the West Bank. And so to mitigate against, I'm not trying to stay in the middle as much as I can. I say, okay, it is on the western bank of the Jordan River. That's how it got the name, the West Bank, but it's
Well,
it's a
you are
descriptive term.
you are geographically correct. So
Yeah, yeah. And what's going to happen? I mean, I don't think a two-state solution can work. That's everyone's favorite. That's the liberal left progressive type say we need a two-state solution. But the problem is the groups like Hamas and groups like the Islamic Jihad and others, and Iran certainly, who's backing all these groups, they view once Islamic, always Islamic. The Arabian Caliphate used to have control over this land, and they want it back. And they cannot countenance. It's a disastrophe. It's a catastrophe. A humiliation that this formerly Arab-held land is now in the hand of Jews, and that's a mistake of history that has to be erased. And all you're doing, if you give them a nation, is you're empowering them to eventually do what they want to do: wipe out Israel from the river to the sea, kill all the
because now
Jews
they're
or
a
drive
nation.
them out. Yeah. And that's where I think history is so important, because in that war that broke out in 1948-49, Great Britain basically said, we're done with this. This is unsolvable. And they left. They owned the land. They were the governing authority. And the governing
The
authority
colonizers.
left. And then what you had, what?
The colonizers. They were the
Yeah.
colonizers.
Everyone yeah, Britain was a colonizer. The Ottoman Turks were colonizers. European Christians during the Crusades, we were the colonial power, or, our ancestors. And Egyptian Mamluks were the colonizers. The Arabians were the
Well,
colonizers.
if it seems that you can't give it to Israel because the other side is going to be pissed off, and you can't give it to the Palestinians because Israel is going to be pissed off, why don't you just take it and make it UN territory? Have nobody have it.
That would be an idea, but Israel's not going. What you had happening between Great Britain took control of it after World War One.
Right.
They gained control of it 1918 in the dying days of World War One, and then they made a formal mandate for Palestine in 1920 at a conference in San Remo, Italy, and they said, okay, we're going to carve up the Middle East, and they said we have a mandate for Palestine, which is all of present day Israel and all of present day Jordan. They said we'll have a mandate for Mesopotamia, and that's present day Iraq. The French said we'll have a mandate for Syria, and then they carved out Syria and Lebanon out of that. And what happened with Palestine? Um, what happened with Palestine is that they gave away 80% of the territory to the Hashemite dynasty from Arabia and said, you can rule over this. And they called the country Transjordan because it was on the eastern side. It was across on the other side of the Jordan. So they gave them the Hashemite kingdom of Transjordan, and they carved that out of Palestine. So that was dealt with. Then they had this little sliver of land about the size of New Jersey, and they said, okay. And the British were administering it. And what happened was the Palestinians, and well, everyone living there is Palestinian because it's the British mandate for Palestine. So everyone there is Palestinian, Palestinian Jew, Palestinian Arab. And they started to fight with each other, and they started to fight against the British. both of them, because they wanted the British out and they wanted control of the land. So the administrative power, Great Britain, was at war. They were trying to keep peace, and it was impossible to keep peace because they were being attacked by Jews and by Arabs. They both wanted them gone. They both viewed the land as their own. And so that's why eventually, in around 1947, Britain said, okay, we're going to leave next year. They gave it to the United Nations. They said, you figure this out. And the United Nations tried to stick handle it, and they came out with a map, and they said, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll make another Palestinian state, another Arab Palestinian state, and then we'll make a Jewish Palestinian state. So we already did the Transjordan thing, and we'll give you another one.
But at that point with the UN, nobody was involved in the talks. It was just the UN that flat out decided this is what's going on.
And they did a vote on it, and they said, here's how we're going to partition it. The map gets shared on social media sites like Facebook all the time. And it was the proposal put forth by the UN, and they voted in favor of it to make a second Palestinian state for the Arabs and another state for, two-state solution out of what remained of the Palestinian mandate. One for the Jews, one for the Arabs.
Sorry, hindsight being 2020, wouldn't it have been better to have both parties in with the UN trying to figure out the lines as opposed to just, here, this is what you got?
Well, the problem is the Arabs wanted everything. The Arabs could not countenance a Jewish nation state of any size. So there was something called, and it still exists today, called the Arab League. And every proposal they put forward, the Arab League said, nope, we get it all. Well, what about this? Nope, we get it all. And so eventually what happened when the expiry date came on May 15th, 1948, Britain said, we're gone. So there's no governing authority, and it was a free-for-all. And what happened was 5 nations of the Arab League sent armies to invade to grab it. Jordan.
So basically, and the kids can't figure it out amongst themselves, send in the parents.
Basically what it amounts to, and the Jordanians sent their forces, and they managed to capture that western bank of the Jordan River. Their country, their Palestinian state was on the east. Now they'd captured a good chunk of the western bank, and they captured East Jerusalem. The Egyptians, they captured Gaza, and the Jewish Palestinians fighting for their what they view as their land, they fought and they secured the rest. And then what happened over the course of a few weeks, Israel signed peace agreements, armistice agreements with Egypt, with Jordan, with Lebanon, with Syria, and that would be it. Saudi Arabia also sent troops, but they were under the command of the Egyptians. So they, over a week or two, they signed peace armistice agreements, and they established the borders. And they're now, if you read the media reports, they'll refer to that as the Green Line borders. These were the borders as established at the end of that war. And Jordan had control of the Western Bank, and Egypt had control of Gaza. And Bob's your uncle, everything's good. But in 1967, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan went to war with Israel again because they call it the Nakba. And the translation, that's an Arabic word that means catastrophe. I call it the humiliating defeat, because 5 invading armies were defeated by 800,000 men, women, and Jewish men, women, and children. That was their total population, and they managed to hold off 5 invading armies and establish a Jewish nation state. And the Arab world views that as a humiliating catastrophe. So in 1967, they tried to avenge it. They tried to wipe Israel off the map from the river to the sea then, but they failed horribly. And the Egyptians lost Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula, and Jordan lost the western bank of the Jordan River and East Jerusalem, and the Syrians lost the Golan Heights. So not only did they fail in their, aim to wipe Israel off the map, not only that, they lost territory on top of that. And then in 1973, they tried again. They waited until Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, the Day of Atonement, the highest of their high holidays. And they launched a surprise attack. And and Israel was able to defend itself, and they held on to their territories. So I don't, what is the solution to this? I think there ultimately has to be an ultimate winner and an ultimate loser, because I don't think the Arab world will ever countenance. And that's why I say so often on this channel, what's going to end it? The king is coming back. As you so often put with your, the king is coming back, the Prince of Peace, and he will establish peace in his kingdom on this earth for 1,000 years. Until that happens, we're going to be fighting with each other.
Seeing how they're just going to fight over it, why don't we just step back, let them go at it, end it, and then pick up the pieces?
That was my view going back to the 80s, because this has been going on forever. And back in the 80s, it was Yasser Arafat. And back then, I knew far less of the history, and I was far more sympathetic to the quote unquote Palestinian cause. I was like, I was more, I had bought into this narrative that European Jews stole the land. And that's a pervasive narrative. And when George Antonios comes on, when we do our live, hopefully later this week, he can talk to that so well, because he's born and raised in Lebanon, which is the country just north. And his grandmother was born in 1925. She was born in Bethlehem, which at that time was controlled by Britain. It was part of the British Mandate for Palestine. So she's a Palestinian. And what happened when the war broke out in 1948, George's grandmother and her family were told, don't worry, go to Lebanon, chill out. We're going to take care of these Jews. We're going to wipe them all out. And then after the war's over, you can come back and you'll have even more land, because all the Jews will be gone.
Which didn't quite happen.
Now, no, 80 some odd, coming up on 80 years later, and the Jews ain't gone. They're still there in their ancestral homeland. It's such a, how far back in history do you go? Do you go back to the British Mandate? Do you go back to the Ottoman Empire? Do you go back to the Crusades? Do you go back to biblical times? How far back do you go in trying to determine whose land this is? It's a land that's been
when you do the show, is it going to be live or pre-recorded live like the Jacks?
No, it's going to be live like this. George likes that. Jack had never been on a YouTube anything. He's consumed YouTube, but he'd never participated. So he's like, oh, let's not do it live. But I've spoken to him.
Interpretation is normal. Interpretation is normal when it's your first time.
Yeah, baptism by fire, and he really enjoyed it. And he said, Jack said, next time we do this, we're going to go live. I want to do it live. I want people to be able to interact. I went, great, because that's what awesome. I like. Yeah. So are you fluently bilingual? What part of Montreal are you in? East Island? Comment?
Moi, je parle pas français du tout.
Oh, tu parles pas français du tout.
Non, jamais de la vie. No, I was actually raised about 600 yards from one of the runways at Dorval Airport.
Oh, wow. Okay. And that's East End.
No, that would be the West End.
Oh, that Dorval is West End. I don't know the geography, as I showed during that by-election that you had in.
No worries. When it comes to that, pretty much anything Lachine westbound is considered west. Everything east of Lachine is east. So you're LaSalle, you're Verdun. That's all East End.
Okay. To Montreal for a March break, and yeah, my dividing line was Saint Denis. I looked at Saint Denis as kind of being the east west, the dividing line between French, go east that way, and it gets more and more French. Go west more, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
But Saint Denis was my dividing line.
If you want to get technical on the actual dividing line, that would be Saint Laurent, what they nicknamed the Main.
Saint Laurent. Okay. Okay. Because it was years ago, it was about 2010, so about 15 years ago, I was in downtown Montreal and I went into a dépanneur, which even Anglophones use the word dépanneur or dep,
Go to the depth.
a convenience store for Anglophones. Yeah. Um, and I, um, I went into this dépanneur and I said to the kid working behind the counter, est-ce que vous vendez des timbres? Do you sell stamps? Simple station sentence. And the kid looks at me. This is downtown Montreal, right across from the bus station. And the guy said, hey, sorry, man, I don't speak French. And I was like,
Nice.
what? I'm in downtown Montreal, the commercial center of the most populous French province in, North America, most French area of North America, the main commercial center, and you don't speak. I didn't say all that. I was just stunned that the kid could not speak, and that was pretty simple. Do you sell stamps?
Oh yeah, well, we used to
Maybe
say as a greeting in Montreal. We usually, you don't know what you're speaking, so bonjour, hi. Well, they made that
yes.
illegal.
I had heard about that. I had heard that they'd made it or that they were trying to claim, but did they actually make it illegal?
You can get smacked for it, I guess. They don't like it.
If you and I are walking down the street and I don't know you, you don't know me, and I say
Oh no, no,
bonjour,
no.
hi.
That's fine. It's when it's in a business.
Oh my God. What annoyed me when I lived in Quebec City, I would go to Galerie de la Capitale, which is the big shopping center in Quebec City. And I would go in there, and if I only have to speak short little sentences, you can't tell I'm an Anglophone. But as soon as I have to expand and then my accent starts bleeding out and I might miss a word. I can't think of a word. And as soon
But
as a
you're
clerk
trying.
or a sales, yeah, but as soon as a clerk or a salesperson would gather that I'm an Anglophone, they wanted to speak English to me all the time because,
Yep.
especially in Quebec City, they never had a chance to use their English because it's so totally francophone. But I never get the chance to practice. You speak French good. I need to practice my English. And I'm like, I didn't move to Quebec to improve the English of francophones. I wanted to get my own French better.
Speaking of Montreal, how much of that white stuff did you get? We got 74 centimeters.
In my town in Brighton here, we probably got 40 to 50 in that neighborhood. So, and we got a bit of a dumping yesterday. We got another 4 or 5 centimeters. Now, that's not a dumping, but we got another dusting. And they had said we're supposed to be good till Thursday. Any
Yeah,
other
no, and
thoughts on Trump?
they got to be behind them.
Behind Trump?
Let's hope God's with them because
All right. Well, I'm gonna.
I'm hoping God's on his side, or he's got God
I'm
somewhere in
gonna
him.
see if Koja Malik wants to come on. No, that's okay. The problem is we're cutting off a little bit here and there, and so your mouth starts to move, and then the audio kicks in. It makes it difficult. This isn't the best format for lively exchange. I had the same issue a little bit with Jack, but it was a little bit better. But anyway, uh, anything else? Any? I'm going to mention to Eat Me and Koja Malik and anyone else. If you want to join, I'll put the link again in the comments,
Bonsoir, with
and you
me.
can just
Nice
click
to
on
see you.
that and you'll be back. Yeah, it's nice to be able to put faces to names, names to faces, so that you can see who it is you're talking to. And I always enjoy your commentary on the live chats. And I like that you keep my, oh, yeah, we, everyone needs reminding, but, and I as much as anyone, Christ is King, Jesus is Lord, and it's his world.
Speaking of which, I made a comment in one of the video, well, in one of your lives way back when, and you kind of was puzzled about it. I'm still working on doing that story about my private school for you.
Okay, where you went on the canoe trip.
That's correct.
Oh man, yeah, I've gotta check that out because that's
Like
unbelievable.
I was saying, my first year, we're in grade 8. Yeah, grade 8 at the time, and we did Fort McMurray to Yellowknife in canoes.
How long did that take?
About 20, 21 days, 700 miles, give or take.
Holy, and that is roughing it because that is insane, insane.
Oh, that's
Look,
no man's
I
land.
don't. Yeah, you're in the crazy. Now listen, I've got Koja Malik has come on, and I don't want this to get too busy on the live stream. So
We'll go
I'm going
back
to
to the
back
chat.
you out, and I'm going to invite her in. Pardon?
We're going back to the chat.
Yes, I'm going to back you out, and I'm going to bring her in, and we'll get the perspective of someone from down in the great state of Florida.
Sounds good, brother.
All right, all right. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. I can hear you just great, and I even hear the accent. Holy cow. Do you
Yeah.
mind sharing your camera?
Oh, hold on. I don't like to be on, but I'll come on for a second.
Okay. It's just nice to see
Hello.
expression. How you doing, sister?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing very well. You're now, what city in Florida are you again? Orlando, Tampa, Tallahassee?
No. I'm in rural Florida. I'm in Hendry County, Florida,
Okay, I
which
don't
is
know what
South
that means.
Florida. It's South Florida. Palm Beach County is our neighbor where Trump is, or Tramp ain't. Mar-a-Lago. I was used to live in Palm Beach County, but that was the rural area of
Okay,
Palm
very
Beach
good.
County. So yeah. So now I'm in Hendry County.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of Zora Neale Hurston?
Now,
Oh, she was a literary black literary genius or whatever writer, and she wrote this book called "And Their Eyes Were Watching
no,
God," and she talked about
the
the
only
mug.
place in Florida I have been is Vero.
Yeah, that's a little bit away, but I'm more. I guess it would be the West Coast now, more towards Fort Myers.
Okay.
And so, but she wrote a book
Okay,
called "The
very
Muck."
good. And I only know Fort Myers, the muck.
I've only in the book it's called. She wrote a book, and they talk about the Muck, but that area is where I'm from. We have the lake. I think it's the second largest freshwater lake in the United States. And it's a bunch of rural towns around that area. And,
Okay.
we grow stuff. Belglade, the soil is black as your jacket, but Clewiston, not so much. And we're an agricultural town. So,
Oh, okay. What kind of farming?
um, this used to be the winter vegetable capital of the US. Like this time of year would be your collard greens, your brassicas, your lettuces and stuff.
Okay.
Um, a little bit will be tomatoes, but they won't be for long because in the summertime it's just too hot, and they grow mostly like peas and okra. I guess that's what you could grow in the heat. Maybe peanuts. and stuff like that in the summertime, like in July and stuff. So we do agriculture. It's cows up the road. And yeah.
Did you see what eat
Yeah,
me what she wrote up it? Are you very
yeah.
familiar with Canada?
I came there once. We went to Seattle, Washington, and we crossed, I guess, over into Canada and came back. It was in the summertime. I probably was like maybe 9 years old or something, eight,
Yes.
9. Yeah, but I haven't been back. I don't think I want to come. Too cold now. I'm too old. I'm 50. So yeah, it's a little bit too cold for my bones to be coming up there at
You're
this
a
age.
puppy.
Well, no, but I'm not
You're
8.
a puppy. I'm 58.
Yeah, I don't want to see snow
No,
at
I
this
know.
age. So yeah. But as you can see,
Oh man.
we had a hot day. We didn't have no snow. Well, not hot, but soon to be hot.
What's the temperature down there?
I don't know,
What's
probably
the
in the
temperature?
70s. Probably in the 70s. I don't
Okay.
really check. It's not in the 90s. So somewhere probably 74, 75, something like that. You know, when they
So
get
you
to
don't
be
want to
like,
deal with the
nah. I was in Tampa and that was too cold for me. So I'm definitely not going back up to North Florida. When we
wow.
get to like 64, 65, hell, 67 is too cold for me
Now I
and
take
stuff.
it I'm going to guess, do you mind sharing? I'm going to guess in the most recent US election that you were on the Democratic side. Is that right or wrong
Yeah,
or
yeah. Nope, I would be Democrat. Yep,
and
I would.
I so appreciate the fact that because I'm unapologetic about my conservative views.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful for the fact that so many I find who lean Democrat, lean liberal, lean left, they just want to shut out the conservative side of, they don't want to talk.
I think most people are actually purple, but they make you choose a side. So, you have to choose one or the other. I'm darn sure not choosing Republican, but I think a lot of people may be purple.
Okay. Have you ever voted if or supported the Republican side in an election?
No, not never and never will, unless something changed. I
Okay.
appreciate what they did back, and getting us our freedom and everything, but they ain't really done too much lately.
Okay. Yeah, because that's something a lot of Canadians don't realize, and even a lot of Americans, is that the Republican Party was the first candidate they ever ran was Abraham Lincoln.
And we appreciate that. But they ain't really done nothing since then.
I don't know. I find it's interesting how things turn upside down. And
Yeah.
if you look at it was the Democrats who were the ones who were going to be the ones underneath the white robes and white capes back.
Yep. We still
It,
got some
it,
Dixiecrats.
yeah, and guys like, oh, I'm trying to remember the name of that longtime serving senator. Was it Strom Thurmond? I don't want to get the name wrong, but I think he
Uh,
was a Democrat who, you know, and George Wallace in Alabama, he was a
yeah.
Democrat,
I don't know.
and
I,
every
I I could just remember back to maybe I think the one who I could remember the most probably is Reagan because Reagan was when I was a child,
yes,
and that's the one I can remember. But I also remember what our town was like under Reagan. We had unofficial segregation here.
you say unofficial segregation.
Yeah, the school voucher system that they're coming up with is because I think Florida is what 62 counties now, 67 counties, and probably 52 of them redneck. Because most people think about Miami and the red and Orlando and stuff like that, but Florida is a lot of rural counties strung together. And in rural towns, you will have a couple of elementary schools, but you generally have one middle school and one high school. So when integration happened, what would happen, like when I lived in Belglade, they had one school that the white kids went through, and they bust just enough students in to meet that quota. Well, after that, you couldn't control whether your kids went to a school with black kids because there was only one middle school and one high school. And they got what they call private schools, but the private schools, people had to pay for it. And when you looked at the population in the high schools and middle schools, you would not even think it was white people there, because basically, I would call the term what they would use. The only people went there was poor white. The T word.
Sorry, that's a bad term.
That's what they would call it, but or people who couldn't afford to send their children to the private schools. And so the school voucher system is a way to take public dollars and restart resegregation 2.0. And when I tell people, they're like, "Oh, you're great." I'm like, "No, that's what it is."
Yeah,
So,
coming from a Canadian perspective, it's hard for me. Our educational system in Canada, we have private schools, but the public school system is still where the majority of people land. Our taxes are so high up here because of universal health care and because of we've got so much government in this. We've got as big a federal bureaucracy as you do in the United States, but our economy is 10 times smaller than yours. It's
that may not be
insane the
it.
amount. Yeah, like I can tell you right now, I don't know what your House of Representatives is, but you have somewhere in the neighborhood of 450 sitting members of the House.
There's a lot of them.
And well,
We'll vote
in
on them in a
Canada,
couple of years.
you've got a population of around 350 million. We only have 40. And
And you know why? You know why we got so many problems right now in the United States with the because by 2040 to 2050, it was initially 2050, the Caucasian white population would be less than 50%.
By the
So
year
it used to be,
2040, 50.
yeah, it used to be 2050, and they moved it up to 2042, 2050. That means collectively all the minorities, Hispanic, Black, and Asian, would be a little bit more than white people, but that's only collectively. And because they fear that, you see a lot of the problems was starting now. That is why you see the when you get rid of a pregnancy, laws being rolled back, and then you will see more of it when they go to rolling back the steps on the birth control pills. Now, if this was a real nation and race didn't matter, it wouldn't matter if the population was white people would still be the majority. They'd be the biggest demographic, but they just wouldn't be 60, 70 something percent where it used to be, which means that if they wanted to all get together and decide what they wanted to do, they still had the numbers to vote themselves in to do that. But with this way, there's no guarantee. And that scares them.
Now, you brought up abortion, you brought up the birth control pill, you brought up things like that nature. When it comes to abortion, there's a lot of talk
Well, I don't know if
that
we could say that word online, so I don't know. That might be one of them funny words.
I've
That's why I
used it
said some
before.
abortion. Okay, well, I don't know. Some people get creepy about it on their streams.
I don't.
Okay.
And that is because I genuinely am something of a free speech absolutist, but I mean absolutist, and that means especially when I don't agree with someone.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's most important for me to open up the forum and let anyone express their ideas, even if I don't like it, especially when I don't like it. It seems to me everyone is all for free speech until they hear something they don't like, and then we've got to shut that voice down because that's
Yeah, actually, I was just watching um a video. Warren Sapp, one of our football players, he got
Zap, yeah.
arrested in Okeechobee, Florida, basically about free speech. So they were going to the county meeting. The county meeting, Okeechobee is just one county. And how they were trying to make them take off their hats, trying to make them talk a certain way. And it's like, no, this is free speech. You don't have the right to do that.
What was Warren Sapp saying?
Well, the Warren Sapp, he was there, but he wasn't speaking. There was other people. He got arrested a couple of months ago. month or 2 months ago, in Okeechobee, Florida. They were doing a charity thing with cars and stuff, some type of charity in Okeechobee. And the sheriffs came over there, sheriff or the county police came over there, and he ended up getting arrested. Now, Warren Sapp is an ex-football player. I think he went to some Super Bowls and stuff.
Oh, yes. I know the name. If you just said Sapp, I know Warren Sapp, and I'm trying to remember what team he played for, but I think it was the San Francisco 49ers back in the Joe Montana, Steve Young era, Jerry
I
Rice.
don't
And
like none of them balls. It was the best thing about the pandemic. It was no balls around, no baseball, no football, no golf balls, no tennis ball. Y'all can have all the balls.
You're
But
not a sports
he was a
fan.
football player. I know that
Yep.
much. And he was in a female rapper's video. I know that
Okay.
much, but that's about all. So he was
I
arrested.
that must have made the news, so I'm going to be checking that out.
Yeah, and Okeechobee, actually, where he got arrested, was not a friendly place for Black people back in the day. It's like almost off of the turnpike. They have an exit from the turnpike, but it's a cross section, and it will take you up to the Tampa area and a lot of small towns. And so that place wasn't really nice. I think a lot of Black people lost their lives there back in the day because it's in the middle of nowhere. But now they have a couple of convenience stores there, and he got arrested. But that county is just one town, and they exposing a lot what them good old boys been doing back there, like the sheriff who was using them inmates as free labor for private businesses, and how he was going with the girl at the waste management, water management, and had her over there, how had the inmates setting up for the wedding. So a lot of stuff came out as a result of them, and how that little small one town had a $25 million lawsuit, $26 million lawsuit against them from a doctor that they were responsible for. And now Warren Sapp's suing them for $20 million.
Well, I'm going to be looking into that. I want to check that out. I can't do it right now because when you're
Just
running,
drop a clip.
StreamYard, pardon?
What I'll do is I'll drop a clip in your comments, a clip
Please.
to where you could go find it in your comments
Oh,
on
that
this
would be
video.
awesome. Awesome. And if you don't, if I, whatever, and I'll also seek out what I can find because I like to get things from numerous different perspectives. The way
Mhm.
things get reported here in Canada, we have, left-wing journalism, right-wing journalism, and they both skew things. They both tilt things to their,
We all
political
have
bent.
implicit biases and stuff
Yep. And so
in our point of view.
I typically like to read both perspectives, and then I figured the truth lies somewhere in between the two extremes. If you watch
Yeah,
Fox and you watch CNN, they both spin.
I don't like CNN.
You do like or
I,
you don't?
I don't like CNN. I haven't watched them in years. If I were to watch the news, it would be MSNBC.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't watch a lot. I don't have television at the house. I don't have a cable
neither.
or set. So, is Rachel Maddow on MS?
MSNBC. Yeah,
And you know what? She is a very effective communicator. She's
she's
got
actually
that.
yes.
That doesn't mean I like what she's communicating necessarily,
Mhm.
but I have to acknowledge that she's very good at what she does. I can see how she got the position she did.
Mhm. She is very good. It was amazing. I don't have cable anymore anyway, but when I was watching a lot of the trials and the Senate hearings and congressional hearings, it would be things I would be picking up, and then nobody would say them during the day, and then I come and watch her at nighttime, and she would picking up on the little pieces of things that people kind of missed, and they weren't explosive, but when you break them down, the devil is in the details type stuff.
Always.
So it's very
Well, there
good.
was within the last couple days, she came out like, she's very effective at doing this, and she was revealing that the federal department of whatever transportation, I don't know what federal agency in the US, that they have had a line item entry to purchase $400 million of Tesla Cybertrucks.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and she painted it as being corrupt, having Elon Musk and his Doge crowd, and now his company is getting a $400 million contract, yeah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then 24 or so hours later, she was forced to pull that back because, as it turned out, that contract was awarded during the Biden administration. That was before
Mm-hmm.
that was back when Donald Trump was not yet president of the United States. But she didn't apologize. She still was attacking. She said, she just made the correction and then continued to go right at
Because
Elon
I
Musk.
don't really know who was over the House and the Senate and whoever, which party made the thing, because they were all aligned with, you know, Trump. So I don't know who had the purse strings at the time when those decisions were made. Oh, are you frozen? Okay.
I
But
did. There we go.
the meme coins, the meme coin was bribery in plain sight. His meme coin, when businesses became people, it's a problem. So,
Well, the difficulty is there going to be corruption under the Trump administration? Yeah, absolutely. Was there corruption during the Biden administration? Yes, absolutely. Was there corruption during the Clinton or the Bush or the Obama administrations? Absolutely. They're all, the political game is dirty.
this level of corruption is unheard of because you're dismantling all the internal checks and balances that will catch the corruption, and you're putting the fox to watch over the hen house. I guess that's what they say. So, and you're putting people in place that there will be no transparency for the little bit that we do. I mean, transparency could be a lot better, but they make it purposely convoluted because Excel is the most simplest way to communicate information effectively. It's so simple, a Excel document, but they,
Spreadsheet.
yeah, simple spreadsheet, keep it simple, stupid, but they don't do that. And if we don't get some more checks and balances in place, it's the end of the world as we know it.
REM. Or for Canadians, Great Big Sea. They covered it. The thing is, and here's the way I tend to look at things in terms of government, is I related an experience I had while I was in the Army. And what happened
Mm-hmm.
was we had the Canadian Armed Forces, and this is my unit, which was a radar station.
Mm-hmm.
There were budgets, and the budget for WingTIS, which was my unit, the broader unit to which the radar station I worked at was attached, had $60,000 in and around that figure that
Mm-hmm.
they hadn't spent it. And it was the end of the fiscal year was coming up. We were in January, February, and the
And you
fiscal year.
had to spend it.
Yeah, and the warrant officer came out and said, "What do you guys need? Anything? Like we've got to spend $60,000. Give me a list. Write down the things you want because if we don't spend this money, it's going to go somewhere else. Somewhere else in the unit." And we had I don't know, it was a 50, 60 inch, plasma type big screen TV. And someone said, "Let's get a new TV. The new ones are 72 inches." So they did.
So why
They
couldn't
ended
they
up,
just let it go to another department?
well, the money was going to be spent, even though it didn't need to. Whether was it going to be spent by us or was it going to be spent by another unit in Wingtus? And this does not just happen in government. It
Yeah,
happens in private industry as well. Everyone's got in large corporations, even medium size, everyone's got their little budgets and they're always looking to grow their budget. Because the more money you control, the more you write down on your resume, oversaw a
but you can't
budget
get
of
that same money the next year. If they let it go, and that's the stupidest thing because this year my office may need chairs. So I may need that money or a little bit more, but next year I don't need chairs. So why would I have to have that same money? But the problem of getting it back is such a hassle that people just waste.
Waste,
Yeah,
waste, waste.
yeah. People who don't
And
do their own grocery shopping, I don't think they're basically good at balancing a budget. You don't even know how much milk costs. So how
no,
can you actually relate to anything? You know,
oh,
you,
it's
you
insane.
don't know.
Yeah, and
So
they talk about in Washington, they talk about the Washington bubble. In Canada, we talk about the Ottawa bubble. That's our capital city, you know. And these people who live there and they work in the government and they're, making six-figure salaries, high six-figure salaries. So they've got no concerns. The kids are looked after by probably foreign national nannies. They've got,
but they don't never have a suggestion box for the people at the bottom to solve the problems. For example, in America, every year the ACA
the
come
what?
and do inspection. Agency of Healthcare Administrations. I work in a prison and a nursing home, but in the nursing home they'll come and they'll make us do this dog and pony show. And you have like an hour before and an hour after to give medication. That means 120 minutes, but you can have up to 40 patients. So when you break 120 minutes down by 40 patients, that's what 3 minutes per patient. But if somebody falls or something, you still have that time window. If you get an admission or have to call the doctor, that's still that time window. Well, one person will have 2 or 3 eye drops. It's 1 minute in between each eye drop. If they have an inhaler, I have to shake it for a minute. Then give them a puff. Then wait a minute and give them another one. If I have to take a blood pressure, if I have to take a pulse. So you have people at the top that make you do this dog and pony show to keep these things low so they don't have to say, oh no, you need more nurses. And we recognize it, but we on the bottom don't really have much control over what happens at the top. And they don't even have a suggestion box for you to anonymously say, we need these here things changed, so they could even begin to get the ideas, because you don't work the jobs. So you don't know. You just know the show we put on for you to keep our jobs when you come here so you won't close us down.
Wow.
And they only
No.
look for a small amount of things, because they got to say they found something. But they'll find something small and continue the facade. So that's what they do. So,
Yeah, you use that term dog and pony show. It's so much of that in today's world. Everyone just it's about putting on a show, put for appearance's sake, so that things look a certain way. But in reality, if you've got boots on the ground, if you're working in the nitty gritty, you know that it's lipstick on a pig, is an expression I like to use.
what do you think? I was hoping that Canada really sock it to Trump, because I really think Trump is overplaying his hand. His hand.
You said that earlier, yeah.
I think that he thinks he has more leverage than he should. Which you heard of FAFO?
Financial, it's a
No,
financial.
no. F around and find out.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, um, these farmers are having a FAFO moment. So Trump, like, y- what you gonna do? You're not gonna sell your excess farm stuff to other countries? That's the leverage you have. I mean, that's what Trump. We sell like $25 billion worth of soy to Mexico and China, but you want to put a tariff on them? So what they're gonna do? Not buy your soy? That's gonna be the threat? Because in reality, they actually don't really need soy, to be honest, because duckweed has the same amount of protein content as soybeans, and they use it for feed for animals. So in reality, they could actually really just start growing duckweed, which grows fast in kind of fresh, still water in vats and not even need it. But they could come to Canada. Y'all are the fourth largest producer of soybeans. So Mexico's like, hey, Mexico, and China be like, hey, Canada, the United States effing with us. How about we buy your soybeans? And knock them out and let them farmers that voted for that mentality talk about the United States got trillions, and they do. But do you, Farmer John, have thousands or millions? No, you don't. So you let Trump keep writing checks that y'all have to cash. And I think y'all should do it.
The one thing I will say on that is that we're a country of 40 million. Yours is a country of 350. Your economy is more than 10 times the size of our own. And yes, there will be pain to be felt in the United States going into a trade war with Canada, but the pain that's going to be felt on this side of the border is exponentially worse because your market is more than 10 times bigger than ours. And so if Trump loses the Canadian market, if we stop buying American, that's a market of 40 million people. When we lose the American market, we lose a market of 350 million people, and our closest trading partner, most Canadian goods and products and resources, that's where they end up in the United States. It's our largest trading partner. We're not the
But what do we
largest
get
trading
from you
partner of
all?
the US
Steel?
anymore. Pardon?
What do we get from you? Steel,
You
alcohol,
get booze, you get a lot of booze.
electricity?
Yes, electricity, oil from Alberta, and you get a lot of minerals. You get a lot of, we're big into resources, timber, mining, big into raw materials. You get them from us. You could get them yourselves because you have the same raw materials that we do, just not as in as big a quantity. But anyway, Seo Jamal or Ko Malik, am I saying it right?
Koj Malik, Koj Mal. It's my son's 3 name. It really
Malik,
wasn't a word. Koj
Malik,
Malik. Yes.
Malik,
Yeah, Koj Malik. It's
Koja Malik. That
yeah.
flows better. That flows
Yeah.
better. That Koja
But
Malik. It's got
it was
almost
nice talking with you.
it was wonderful talking with you. I now have Eat Me from Montreal, and I want to keep this going one at a time just because things get too
I'm gonna go to the
crazy
chat.
otherwise. All right. God love you.
All right. All right.
Cheers.
Oh,
Hello, and your name is up there, so I'm going to say Nancy. Can you hear me, Nancy?
Yes, can you hear me?
Do you have a mic? Yes, I can hear
supposed-
you. Are you
Yeah,
are you first language English or French?
French.
Vous êtes francophone? Ah, très bien. Je te débrouille. Je peux survivre en français sans problème. But because most people, anyone watching this, overwhelmingly are going to be English.
Oh, okay. I get what's happening because the YouTube is actually playing in the background and it's lagging
Ah,
because I hear echoes.
yes. Mute your YouTube
Let me go check
or yeah.
real fast.
Parce que si on a les deux
All right.
au
It has been paused.
même temps, il y a un écho,
It has been
évidemment.
paused now. Is
Are
it
you
better?
back?
Yes,
Oh.
I am. Is it better?
Are you back?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh.
there we go. That sounds better. You don't seem to be lagging either.
StreamYard, this is YouTube. Okay, this is so confusing. I don't usually do that.
No,
I'm sorry
I could hear your, no problem at all.
Okay.
But if you hold the mic,
Better?
what did you want to talk about?
I just wanted to say hello to everybody. And I'm not too sure what to talk about. What was the subject of the conversation? Was it the tariffs? Was it a 51st state? Was it?
You know what? The subject line of the video is, talking about all things Donald Trump. So that could be the tariffs, that could be the 51st state, that could be, Canadian impressions of US President Donald Trump. What are your thoughts?
Well, I look all over Canada and there's a lot of there's some Quebecers that are for the 51st state, which I cannot fault them
Really?
because that might be the only way to just topple our excuse me, shitty government. Legault,
Yeah.
it become a
Okay.
governor. And here in Quebec, we're supposed to have was it legislative and executive branch.
Yes.
In the Assemblée nationale, which it ain't. It's not. It's being let's just say manhandled. And the deputy cannot, sit at the assembly, and be within the both branches, but yet they are. So they
Just to
pass
put a
law,
fine point.
they pass they formulate laws, they vote on laws, and they pass laws,
Yes.
which is highly illegal. Basically, it goes against what Quebec's constitution should be, but they don't care.
Well, I just want to tell anyone who's not from Quebec that when Nancy's referring to the Assemblée nationale, that's the National Assembly, that's the Parliament in Quebec. That's that's where the government sits. And it's a parliamentary system like we have in every other province and nationally. And right now it's Francois Legault, Frank Legault, if you like, is the governor premier of Quebec with his Coalition Avenir de Québec, CAC. Great name for a party. But I'm amazed to hear that you say there are Quebecers who are in favor of Canada becoming the 51st state. Are Quebecers willing to give up the French language as the lingua franca, as the language of the street?
I It depends because I've been aware that Reagan back then actually floated the idea, having a 51st state and having Quebec like remain with their language intact.
Because right now in Canada, Canada as a nation, we have two official languages in Canada, but every province also designates itself either English or French. New Brunswick is the only bilingual province in this country. They're the only province with two official languages. Every other province is English only, one official language, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, all of them. And Quebec is French only, is the only official language of the province of Quebec. And I find the United States has only one official language. There are more Spanish speakers in the United States than there are French speakers in Quebec. And yet the United States doesn't put out any of its federal forms, and it's not available. It's English is the official language. How would Quebecers? Montreal might be different because Montreal is a major commercial center. But if you're out in, Abitibi or Le Gaspésie or, Mont, I can't remember all the names, Estrie, all these outlying areas, La
Well,
Beauce.
Estrie actually used to belong to the townships, so they were mostly English way back then.
Cowansville and such, yeah. What
Yeah,
do they call
because
it?
hmm?
What's the area up around Trois-Rivières? Is that Mauricie?
That may be. I couldn't tell you honestly.
Okay.
There's
Uh,
it's big. There is so many regions, but if you go down South Montreal, like Orford or what they call the East, the Canton de l'Est, cantons being
Eastern
more
Townships.
yeah, more square lands basically. Maybe this is why we actually call them square heads back then from when I grew up. I mean English used to call us frogs and we call them square heads.
I always thought the squarehead came because Anglophones are square, we're uptight, we're anal, we're this, whereas French have more joie de vivre.
not necessarily, because it might have been actually because of how the land was laid when it was when it was like still under the king's purvey, when it was still New France. They would give us access to land, like you had to marry an American Indian, and you'd have a plot of land which was basically rectangle, like but super
Yeah.
long, but not that wide. But you
Had
still
the
had
ti-
access, like you still had access to a river, which they would call that seigneurie.
yeah, the
And
seigneurial system. The first guy would have a plot of land might be 100 acres wide, touching the St. Lawrence River, and then he would have 10 sons, and they'd each get a plot of land that was 10 acres wide, and then they would each have 10 kids, and now each one had one that was an acre wide, and then half an acre, and it got smaller and smaller. And then what they started doing is, because they just started farming backwards, making it long. So, and you can still see that when you go out, if you get outside of Montreal, outside of Quebec City, you can still see the seigneurial system. It's carved into the land, how far back these farms go. It's amazing. I never thought of that in terms of les hosties têtes carrées.
but as the township, it was basically like modeled on a square. So this is my observation. I might be wrong. I might be dead wrong, but it's a gut feeling. This is maybe how, like we it happened to fall into, like we called English people, square heads. Maybe,
Could
like
be.
it's rooted in history. I don't know. Who knows?
So you think that Quebecers may be, some Quebecers are maybe amendable to becoming the 51st state because they're so tired of the corruption of the Legault regime and just Canada in general, and they think things would be better with an American administration?
Well, let's just say it's about, like the entire Quebec system to begin with, because, like it's been taken over literally by excuse me, a bunch of communists. I'm gonna say it, communist socialists. And even like the what's his name again, René Lévesque, when he created the Parti Québécois, Quebec's party. He wanted to do good. Literally, his idea was, we have a lot of resources. Maybe this is why he actually nationalized all the electric companies, to become a resource for Quebec. But at one point, there was some people under him, some ministers, and they voted him out. The guy who created the party was voted out because some people had their own interests at hand, and it
Well,
went downhill. And it went downhill from then. Our quality
he
of life
was
did not get better.
he was premier from about 1976, was when in around the first, he ran in a couple elections before that, and then
I
he
do
got
believe
elected.
so.
Yeah, and then uh, in 1981, when the Constitution was repatriated, what they called the Night of Long Knives in Quebec.
Yeah, the
Um,
patriation. Yeah,
yeah, and a lot of political commentators think that René Lévesque, that he was no longer on his A game. He was advanced in years. He was probably kicking in around 70, maybe more. And I mean, he hung on to that party, was his creation, but he was pretty long in the tooth. He'd been around for a long time when, I think the next guy to take it over was Lucien Bouchard, was it
oh
not? Or
no,
maybe there was,
oh no, 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 Lucien Bouchard came around, like after the referendum in 1995. That's a whole other story.
yeah, Jacques Parizeau. Sorry, Jacques
Yeah, yeah,
Parizeau.
no, Lucien Bouchard was the one who actually created the Bloc Québécois.
Yes, yeah,
Okay, so
but it was when that second referendum happened in the 90s. That was um, Jacques Parizeau was the Parti Québécois leader, and Lucien
yes,
Bouchard. They were working together because of the Bloc Québécois in Ottawa.
The reason of the matter is that the reason why Lucien Bouchard actually created the Bloc Québécois was to have an opposition to Jean Charest because the GST stuff was getting out of hand. And like, he said, no, they should have we should have an opposing party that, have a voice for Quebec. And basically, eventually, Lucien Bouchard used to be a liberal.
No, he used to be a conservative. He was a cabinet
Well,
minister in the Brian Mulroney
conservative?
government. He
Okay,
was
I'm
a
sorry.
and I'll say this because this is important when we talk about Canadian politics, is that when Brian Mulroney was president of the Conservative Party, what was then the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada, they changed the name. When he was president of the party and Joe Clark was the leader, Brian Mulroney had designs. He wanted to become the leader of the party. And so after the Conservatives lost the 1980 election to Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Joe Clark lost the leadership to Brian Mulroney. And Brian Mulroney, the way he was able to win the leadership is he brought in a lot of separatists. He brought in guys like Lucien Bouchard, Benoit Bouchard, and others who were big in the separatist movement. And he said, I will get Quebec's signature on the Constitution. We will amend the Constitution. And he gave us the Meech Lake Accord.
I remember
And that
that.
was going, yeah, and that was going to get Quebec's signature on the Constitution, recognize Quebec as a distinct society, all these things. And what happened was when the Meech Lake Accord failed, and then he tried the Charlottetown Accord, and it failed. And then Lucien Bouchard said, "You promised you would get, reconcile and get Quebec's signature. You failed to do it. Now we're creating our own party." So Brian Mulroney, in a fashion, by bringing in separatists to help him win the leadership, he then created, because he couldn't deliver on his promise, because Meech Lake and Charlottetown failed, then Lucien Bouchard created a new party, the Bloc Québécois. Man, we wanted to start, this was about Trump, but I love this. I like this when the conversation, wherever it goes, wherever it leads, I like.
Yeah, but we could talk politics another day, like, about the Canadian politics and stuff like that. But I mean, I've lived in Texas for close to 6 years.
Okay.
No, this is where I had my son. Like, I was
So
born in
he's an
Texas.
American.
Yeah, he's an American. Definitely. And considering I was more in between San Antonio and San Marcos, there was
Okay.
lots of Republicans over there.
Well, for sure. West Texas.
No, it would be like, Central Texas.
Yeah.
Because if you go west from San Antonio, then you actually hit the desert lands, literally.
Yes. I still call it West Texas because it's the last, after that, there's no, when you get down to Houston and Dallas, that's east. San Antonio is west because that's about as far west as anyone lives in any size of any number.
Except for El Paso and then some little other cities. But yeah,
Anyway.
no, like, being Canadian going there, I was always against gun rights because this is how I was raised, literally. And I went there and I came to realize, wait a second. So if somebody actually invades my home, I have the right to shoot him to defend myself. Yes, you can.
Second Amendment.
So I came to realize that why are Canadians, basically our Canadian government, are against, like, basically having weapons to defend yourself. This is something I was confronted with and I still ponder it. I'm not sure. It might have been again a root of our history that people might dismiss. When Independence Day happened in the United States, who left the United States to come to Canada? The
The
loyalists.
loyalists.
The loyalists. So sure, excuse my French, sure shit they did not want something to happen like that in Canada. Ban guns.
If you
Nobody's
ban
gonna do an
guns,
uprising.
and I always go back to the COVID era, and when the American Revolution was planned, where was it planned? It was planned in churches and public houses, and you know, what did they ban? What did they ban? Oh, you can still get you can still go to you can still go to Costco, you can still go to Home Depot, you can still order from Amazon. We'll allow armies of workers, hundreds of workers to go into the fulfillment centers so that you get your Amazon delivery. But darn it, don't you go to church.
Oh, we
Don't you
couldn't.
go to a pub or a restaurant or a place where you can talk and figure
Absolutely
out
not.
what.
Not in Quebec. Well, there was a mandate, like, if you did not have all your doses, if you were not jabbed enough to the taste of the government, you could not enter a place which was bigger than 1,500 square feet.
Man, I'm so glad
Or
I
meters,
left.
meters.
We
So
left.
I couldn't go at Walmart. I couldn't go at Costco. I couldn't go basically anywhere. Couldn't even enter a restaurant, a cinema. But
Man, that's
I stuck to my guns because like I'm one-headed hearted bitch. There was
if
no
you
way. There was
if
no
it,
way because I went like, how can they do a vaccine within 9 months? No phase trial. And all right, like I say, hey, you're brave over there in the United States, like those who tested this. You're freaking heroes. What are gonna be the side effects? So I went like, I'm gonna wait. But
that
then
was
like
my attitude.
it became one. 75%, just one. Then 80% two. Then yeah, we might be thinking about what is it, COVID passports. Uh if it becomes like, a little bit too much and we have to restrain places, then it became no, it's gonna be on September 1st. It's dystopian. It was dystopian here in Quebec. We had curfews.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That I know. Here, the Vax Pass mandates went into effect on September 22nd. I know I've got that date indelibly marked on my brain because it's my wedding anniversary. So on the day of our wedding anniversary, we couldn't go out to dinner because we didn't have a Vax Pass, and I wasn't willing to get a fake one because then that to me is bowing the knee and saying, okay, I'm going to pretend that this has legitimacy when I know deep down that it has none, not in a free and democratic society. So there's no way. And actually, God bless Kelly Hale. He had a restaurant in Kingston called Jack Tuesdays, and he kept his place open. There was a Wild Wing in Belleville that kept, they wouldn't ask anyone for medical information, private information. Jackie owned that place. I got to know the owners of the restaurants and the establishments around, but most 99% just, well, I've got no choice. I've got to do what the government tells me. And it was so
Oh hell
annoying.
no. Oh hell no, you don't.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't. Absolutely not. Not when it comes to listen to Trudeau, like oh, the feminist, my buddy, my choice. Yeah, sure. Like when was my buddy my choice? No, it
Oh, I
wasn't in
know.
that matter.
Look at the comments going up from, yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh,
I
it
don't
was
want to like
crazy. But you know what?
I don't
Uh,
want to I don't want to be. I have very sharp opinion. I'm sorry. I do not wish to offend anyone at all. But still, the
yeah,
fact of the matter is that
so you're so Canadian.
that may be. I mean, like I love my country. When I came to realize that let's do independence. Let's do independence. All right, that's fine. But like even in the back of my head, like, after 1995, I was like, I voted for independence. And then I went like, wait a second. So what are we going to do for postal? What are we going to do for, I don't know, maybe an army? What's going to be our currency? How are we going to do
Right.
that? None of these things were ever, 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 ever explained to us. So it's basically like, tug and heart. A tug to the heart.
Right.
Like, they flaunt that little thing that, like, what is Quebec identity? No, no, Quebec identity. It's super important. Let's protect our languages, protect our culture. What is our culture right now? They don't teach our culture anymore. They don't teach, like, the legends at school. La Chasse
La
Galerie
chasse,
and
la chasse galerie, and
they don't
that's
teach us how to weave what they call the ceinture fléchée. All of that is dead. Basically, they
yeah.
don't even do home economics anymore at school.
No, no.
Kids come out of there
I
and,
love.
like, they don't even know how to bake a muffin.
It's that song, Mon arrière-arrière-grand-mère, elle avait 14 enfants, or however, Les Ancêtres, I forget the name of the group. I adore, j'adore le Québec. Québec me manque, vraiment. Et,
Oh, no, no, rest où est-ce que t'es. Stay where you are. No, no. It's become a
franchement,
dystopian place. It
je le
became a
sais,
dystopian place.
mais j'ai habité dans le Québec entre 2011 et 2015. Je l'adorais, mes voisins, mes voisines, tout le monde, la culture, le langage. J'ai appris la chasse-galerie. On est allé souvent dans les printemps pour le cabane à sucre et les choses de même. C'était incroyable. And I loved my time in Quebec, and I will go back. I've made visits back since we left, but what happened during COVID was a huge eye opener when they brought in the couvre-feu, the curfew, and you weren't allowed after what was it 8:30, 9 o'clock if you didn't, and then it was
8
almost like
o'clock.
living in Nazi Germany. There, your papers,
8 o'clock. Yeah, exactly. It was the Gestapo.
yeah, and which
It
was
was the
horrible.
Gestapo. I mean,
Yeah,
like, the Quebecers would actually sell their soul for bowl of soup to go out to the
or
restaurant,
Putin.
like, cinema.
Yeah. Oh, it was
N-
insane.
But the
But anyway,
problem is that, like, if it maybe Canadians actually woken up, maybe not in BC yet, but the most majority of Canada probably has woken up to the fact that if they try to pull that again on us, they wouldn't follow. But here, a lot of Quebecers actually have a saying: "We live under a dome," because we are unilingual. We only speak one language, and be shamed actually, like, if you learn a second one. Oh no, we don't need English. We don't need English at all. And people are not educated because they cannot get the United States side of you. They cannot get the Canadian side of you. They just get people who
Radio-Canada
actually
and
pass.
TVA.
Yeah, yeah. The people actually, like, pass themselves as journalists, but they're actually pundits. It's basically giving their opinions, but they pass that as the news, thus formatting people's brain badly. This is,
Huge. Uh,
yeah, this is like, something. Like, I can't say I don't love Quebec, but I hate what it had become. I hate what it has become. I detest that the people, like, are just basically follow the leader. I'm a black sheep, basically, and I do believe that us black sheep can smell each other from a distance.
Oh, yeah, massively.
So,
Anyway, Nancy, we've been going on, the live stream's been going on for almost an hour and 40 minutes. I'm gonna wrap up. So, not to be rude, but I'm gonna kick you out.
no problem.
I'm gonna, and then I'm gonna, sign off to everyone. So thanks very much. I love this. I'm gonna do it again.
Awesome. Y'all have a good evening.
All right. All right. I hope everyone enjoyed the live stream. We went all over the place, but hey, this is new functionality for me with using StreamYard for the live. When I want to have people on, like I just had Nancy and Danny, and now I'm going to have trouble saying, because I said it, Malik, Koja Malik. I like the cadence. I like the rhythm of Koja Malik. Uh, Anyway, thank you for watching. And as I always like to end my videos, because we are in troubling times, there are so many things happening in the world. You know, they just came out with video of that plane that crashed and rolled over at Pearson International Airport in Toronto. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it already, where the wing absolutely ripped off as this plane rolled over. A miracle that no one died, although there are some individuals in critical but not life-threatening, thank God, not life-threatening condition, but critical condition. And the fact that this is the fourth plane crash in a space of a couple weeks, I guess, is probably 15, 20 days at most. Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Alaska, now Toronto. Are we going to see more of this? I'm openly questioning, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, just openly questioning whether or not there's an AI component to this. To any of the crashes. Maybe one was legitimate. Maybe one was just an accident. Stuff does happen. But when they all start happening in such quick, rapid succession, it makes me things that make you go, So anyway, thank you everyone for watching. As always, hit the like button. Always appreciate that. It helps increase the stations, my channel's exposure. And I don't ask, I don't ask for money in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing, no members get special privileges or anything like that. I don't like that stuff. But if you do want to help me out, likes, shares, and subscriptions, if you're not subscribed, help me out enormously. So I will talk to you soon, probably tomorrow. And in the interim, as I always like to say from the book of Numbers, may the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. And may the Lord God, creator of heaven and earth, may he grant you peace. And as I always like to say, he will invite him in. And to everyone who commented, thank you. And we'll see you all probably tomorrow. Night all.